Okay, we have been meaning to do this Q&A for a really long time. A while back, it's probably been a month maybe, we did a video on our homestead and on how self-sustainable are we. Where are we at with that? And you guys were really interested in that video, and then also had sent us some questions, and I asked for some questions on Instagram. So we are just going to take a little bit of time to go through your questions right now. So if the questions seem a little all over the place, it's because I just pulled them from the different sources that you sent them, but mostly relating to homesteading and sustainability. Okay, first question. Oh, first of all, if you're new here, we are Jason and Julie, and we have 10 children, and we live in Missouri on an almost 16-acre homestead. Although when we figured it up, it was really, what did we say?
We're living on 3 acres of it.
Right. Most of our property is woods and on a hill, so it's not really usable. So we are homesteading on under 3 acres right now.
It's not that it's not usable. It's just going to take a lot of work to do. Right.
And one thing that you probably also should know that we've talked about here is that we are still trying to decide if this is the place that we should stay and continue homesteading, or if we should buy a larger piece of land with a lot more pasture. So some of our decisions and things are based on that uncertainty that we have right now. We've continued to look, and actually next week we're going to be deeper in the Ozarks, where we get to look around again at, you know, through the lens of maybe we'd want to live here. So we'll keep you posted on all that. Okay, Emily Dingley says, what was the succession of animals? What did you start with, and then how did you decide what to add?
Oh, chickens.
Yeah,
they're always
that's
the gateway
kind of
animal.
an easy start.
Right.
When we first got our chickens, we weren't actually living here yet. So we bought this place, and was it a year that we still lived in the city? Mm-hmm. We were finishing up two houses at the same time.
Right.
So the chickens lived here before we did.
Yeah.
We moved them out first, and we knew that, actually, I don't really think when we decided to move into the country, we weren't saying like, we are going to have a full-blown homestead with all of these animals.
No. We knew we wanted good eggs and good chicken.
Yeah, and maybe a beef cow, maybe. But really our daughter, who has the passion for homesteading, and she's kind of talked us into a lot of things, and now we're glad we're here. But you know, some people, like we just met a couple recently, they bought land, they're a younger couple, 3 small children, and they're like, we are buying land, we are making a homestead, we have no knowledge, but we're going to get the knowledge, you know, really focused. You know, for us, I think we've sort of stumbled into it, led by Bella's knowledge. You know, so next we went to what? Well, we already had a dog in the city.
Yes.
Although we have a poodle, but we got guardian dogs later. So first we did chickens. I'm trying to remember. I should have Bella here. We did chickens, and then we got. We tried goats.
Oh, yeah.
That's what. We're like, well, maybe we want a milk animal, so we'll try goats because that seems easier than a milk cow. It wasn't for us. Mm-mm. It was kind of a disaster. Mm-hmm. And the goats, quickly, I was like, no, the goats have to go. They broke into our vegetable garden, and you know, it's so much work. I was pregnant, had planted this whole garden. It was all coming up, and the goats broke in and ate it. I mean, it was just...
They got into our house.
Got in the house and messed the house up. It
was our plants.
It was not... So we never actually did get goat milk even once. Mm-hmm. And the goats moved on. And we have a friend who we call our homesteading mentor, and she talked us into getting a Jersey cow. Mm-hmm. So much so that she actually drove us there with her trailer, picked out the cow, put it in the trailer, brought it home, and put it on our farm.
Yes. And coached us through crying on the first milking. Be like, we're not getting it.
Yep. That night we called her in tears because we can't get the milk to come out. I mean, it was just rough, which, you know, it's how things
Reality.
go.
Yeah.
So just start anyway, even if you feel like you don't know what you're doing, because now we love our milk cow and our milk, and you know, it's been a series. Yeah. So then we got beef cows next.
Yes, because part of the milk cow situation led into us getting a bottle calf to allow us to not have to milk twice a day.
That was our first beef cow.
Right, so we did calf sharing and he was a steer, so we got him really Holstein steer, so he was really cheap, real cheap, and raised him up, and actually we butchered him.
Yeah, that's the first cow that we, just as a family, did the whole processing.
Process, right? Yeah, and yeah, the raising them up, everything. Yeah.
And we've also had we had a couple other cows come and go, trying to figure out, do we want to keep a bull here?
We were going to breed Baltic Galloways.
And then decided, I don't know.
Yeah.
You learn as you go, really. So don't be afraid to try things out. Oh, and then we got pigs. So we've been really pleased with our pigs. We have Cooney pigs, and it's been a great experience.
Yep.
They're very easy to keep. They stay in a single strand of hot wire. They really respect that. So
mostly. The male, when he's separated from the females,
he got a little. Well, it was when he was on the other side of it. I think that didn't work. You can't have the females in heat, one single strand, and the male.
Well, no, it wasn't even that, because that was all hog panel. He would bust out the sides of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going really well now.
It is.
And we just had piglets born 2 days ago.
2 days. Yep.
Okay. So there you go. That's how it's been. And how did you decide what to add? I would say that's just specific to your circumstances. Do you have pasture to support?
Did you say rabbits?
Oh, rabbits. No, I forgot the rabbits. Yeah,
That was
actually,
before pigs.
You're right. Was that before cows?
I don't remember.
I'm going to ask Bella. Yeah. Raising meat rabbits was pretty early on, too.
I think it was after the cow.
She will know.
Chickens, guineas, ducks, goats, rabbits, cows, pigs, turkeys.
And Emily also had a second question, is tips on affordability.
Well, that's kind of a broad thing to say, like affordability and what. So I'm going to have to make some assumptions. Yeah. So how to do this from a broke or near broke mentality, like where are you at financially? You definitely, if you want to do it right, I'm not saying that we did, but if you want to do it right, trying to account the cost and figure out what's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck as far as animal goes, and you kind of work from there. So once you start saving some money, it's let me back up. So homesteading is not necessarily a good way to save money.
No.
Maybe if you're really, really good at it and you happen to catch the right circumstance and situation and you know what you're doing and you're focused, then maybe you could save money doing that.
I think we probably spend more money than we did when we just shopped from a regular grocery store. I don't think we've quite reached that point yet.
But the problem is that if you wanted to start evaluating the quality and then the availability, then
that's true.
There's other pieces of information or other aspects of this that don't necessarily get figured in when you're just looking at the finances.
And also I'm comparing what we are producing now to what we were buying before, which was not organic, not grass-fed. It was just like what we could get at Costco. And this is, the premium nutrition.
Even when we did the organic and the grass-fed, it's like...
It's still not the same.
You can check a box and say that you're organic and grass-fed and still be a lesser quality than what we can do.
I was just talking with someone about this morning because I'm picking green beans, and it's so laborious to can your own green beans when you could go spend, I don't know, $1 or whatever to buy a can.
Yeah.
But it's apples and oranges. It's totally a different food. One has been picked that day, processed at its peak nutrition, raised with the best nutrition that you could put into your soil to give the plants. And another one is basically just calories that who knows where they were grown or how they were processed. It's just like filling your
And again, it's not
stomach.
like all organic farmers are not doing as good as we would do. There's some that care. There's some that pour their heart. The problem is that you can't tell by looking on a label or purchasing it.
And once
unless
you get
know your
to
grower.
that scale, you have to make compromises. I listened to a podcast, and I've mentioned this before, but a man who, for a living, has a farm that grows herbs to be used as supplements. And he has a great heart for his product. The podcast was all about, I don't remember when it was, so I can't give you the link, sorry. But he was talking about how to start your own medicinal herb garden so you can get better quality herbs, because he said, even though I'm trying my hardest, I can only produce a substandard product because from the time that I pick my herbs, as much as I try to raise them well, through all the red tape and all the packaging, is a full year before they could even be sold to you at all. And so the amount of nutrition lost in that time, like, you can't make it up. You can't make up for that. So, as far as affordability, homesteading might not be the most affordable thing to do.
But if you look at it from a wholeness or wellness, you know, like a whole, I don't know what the right word, holistic, is that right?
That's right.
Yeah. If you're looking at it from, you know, the 10,000 foot view, what you're getting is higher quality, and so to some degree you are doing better.
Like Peggy and Dawn were saying, we had some friends stop by last week, and they said, you know, since they've started really trying to eat clean, they might be spending more money now, but their health is better, and in the long term, they're not going to be spending so much on the doctor bills.
And they're in their 60s, and so it's like that is kind of the time when you start to see the results more. I'd say more. More visibly, more often. I'm not sure what the right word is.
They said, we're not on any medications, we're not on any other helps, you know, just living our life. So, other tips, though, I would say buying used whenever possible. So, as far as things like the infrastructure, fencing, farm stuff.
Yeah, even attachments. I mean, again, one of the problems with doing that is that you have to know what to look for. And you can get out there and get on forums and, you know, try to find the right people. So, for instance, I'm really into diesels, and I have been kind of in the background reading different forums on the indirect injection diesels, which is prior to 94. And like my wife's glazing over looking at me and rolling her eyes.
No, I'm glad you have that desire.
But the idea is that there is something that is offered there that that would really potentially benefit us from a sustainability standpoint. And so anyway, long story short, they're inside that little universe of
people who care
options.
Oh, sorry. I'm just kidding.
There's different things to know, like, well, if you do this situation and this situation and this is, well, if you're going to do this, watch out for this and this. And so just like watching some of the, you know, the people that own the equipment, then asking questions for those that really, you know, excel in the knowledge of this area, you know, you grow and learn. So, you know, the internet in that sense has been very helpful for learning.
I would also say that's another way we've made it work is by, we don't try to both do everything or the kids do everything. We find the areas that people really are interested and let them go to town.
Yes.
So he's, you know, with the diesel stuff, if he didn't have all of that or all of the engine type anything, like, it wouldn't be happening if it was me. I don't know.
You would be relying it, but there's
I'd have
more
a horse and
frustration
buggy,
there.
maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. So there was something I was gonna say.
And also me with gardening. I mean, you really, like, you don't mind helping move large mounds of mulch or something, but you really have no interest in the process of the gardening, and that's something that's been passionate for me.
Honestly, I do have a desire. I just don't have the time to have the desire. I'm already full in so many different areas, and I expect that when life changes or shifts, that I will be in the garden and enjoying it.
It's so fun. We can garden together.
I was thinking the same thing about working on diesels.
Let's garden.
Let's garden. Well, anyway, so one of the things that I thought was important from an affordability standpoint is, again, seeking knowledge and wisdom for people that have been there. So, you know, go into somebody, if they're local, that would be ideal, because you can really hit them up with some real questions. But, you know, from an equipment standpoint, if you're adding certain things, you know, just getting their opinion and understanding what are the things that you can cut corners on and what is not worth cutting corners on. You know, like
very much so.
So, for instance, if there's a certain brand of either tool or equipment, you know, and you're like, oh, this is it. You know, so if you're looking at a pressure canner, you know, that probably would be not an area I would want to cut corners on. You know, because the seals may not be good, the gaskets, the whatever. You know,
I find how you said to find somebody in real life. I found that to be helpful because the internet is overwhelming. I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
And we go there a lot for information, but wow.
And if you don't know exactly how to ask the exact right question, then you could just be swimming. Yeah.
Even like with Wendy helping us to get the cow and to start, I mean, having a real person. And you might even have to hire a real person.
Yeah.
We did that when we learned how to butcher a cow. The first cow that we butchered, we hired a retired, semi-retired guy to come out and do it with us.
What an amazing guy to begin with. Okay, but you know, and again, like, God is in control, and He placed these people in our lives because these are the desires that He put on our hearts. And so, anyway.
Yeah, we have wonderful people around us. We have a neighbor who has done farming with organic practices for decades, and he has been a wealth of knowledge for us with learning so many things. I mean, it's just wonderful, which goes back to what we talked about in our last video, is community and finding people who know more than you.
Right.
Is that better? We're trying to get better lighting here for you guys, because if you're going to sit here and look at us this long, why are you singing that?
I don't know.
Oh, because your coffee was far away.
Yes.
Okay, next question. Marguerite said, thoughts on sustainable clothing? This is a hard one for me. It's thrift stores. We buy secondhand. I mean, I don't sew. So.
Not even in the least.
I don't even want to patch things. I mean, you get a hole, too bad, throw it out. That's kind of where I am.
I sincerely think that Silas could be
Yeah, he got into it.
He's really good at it.
Elsie likes to sew, but unfortunately they haven't had a mom who's taught them any skills.
Aunt Debbie's promised to give her.
Okay, so, but that's the answer, is we buy secondhand. That's
what's
the most sustainable you can get.
What's that one guy's, the glue instead of stitching?
Oh, tear mender.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can buy tear mender glue.
We should put that in the favorite things.
If you don't want to sew. It works great. How do you do it with one income and 10 kids?
Who says we do it? What is it? What is it that needs to be done?
You know what? We didn't look at any of these questions. Disclaimer. We have no idea what you're about to ask. But I actually was thinking about this morning because I saw a little like collaboration that these women did. Ways to save money on a homestead or something. And I didn't...
do you guys like when she does
I actually...
little sass?
In all honesty, I didn't watch the collaboration at all. But the one like little thing that popped up to me was someone saying to unplug from the world or something. And I thought that is the biggest money saving thing for us, is don't go to the store.
Yeah.
I know it sounds kind of dumb, but when I go to the store, I end up buying things to make my life easier instead of just being creative with what I already have. So I really try to do grocery shopping just once a month if possible.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking more of like staples and not the convenience food. You know, if we run to another type of store, you end up seeing something, I didn't remember that I needed that, but I think I do. You know, and suddenly you got it at home. Whereas, you know, staying out of stores, we do things as a family that are free and fun. We're not in organized clubs and things that ends up costing money.
So yesterday I was working on a project out in the barn. We just got some used oil, and this goes back to the diesel thing. Some used motor oil that we clean up and then mix with diesel fuel to be able to run as vehicle fuel, and even for our tractor as well. So in doing that, you know, I wanted to use what I had there to... This is kind of a long story, but I promise it has a point. So when you come in with a 55-gallon drum of used oil and you need to clean it, you need to move it into the tank that has the cleaner on it, okay? And in doing so, you have to pump it out. I don't know of any other... I mean, I really don't think there's a better way to do that.
What is it, 450 pounds?
It is, yeah.
You can't pick it up and pour it.
Right, 440, something like that, yeah. So the idea is that I have a pump on the machine that recirculates the oil from the bottom of the drum to the top, and that's how it kind of keeps washing it, if you will. Much more complicated than that, but really easy to do, just for the record. So they have kits out there and everything. So
ways to save money.
Yeah,
That's a big
I mean, it
one.
really is. Okay, but that's not even the point of that. Because not everybody's going to want to do that. The whole idea is that I needed to tap into one of the lines to come out to then go into the new oil that needs to be cleaned, if you will, the old oil. And so to be able to pull from there instead of the bottom of the drum. So I had to have a shut off here and this. So Joe and I, we get out our drawers and we like just lay it down and we're like, all right, Joe, here's the challenge. We have to build something that allows us to do, shut off and do this. And, I cut hoses off of our old blue van that was totaled that, basically I tapped into with another PVC. Everything was used that I had scavenged.
It was all rigged up.
It was.
And it was free.
It was. And it's rigged up is not necessarily the right word to say it.
It was crafted by hand.
Yes. Crafted by hand.
I mean, that's so true. You could go out and buy that.
You absolutely could. So I could have bought every fitting. And honestly, the time that it would have taken to go to the store and get it was probably about the same for me and Joe to figure out Joe and I to figure exactly how it needed to go together. Well, what was awesome about it is, again...
Joe and me is correct. You were right. For me to figure out.
I hate English rules.
But you were right. You corrected yourself, but you
Yeah, you know why? Because I don't know the rule.
Okay.
And so I
I'm
corrected.
sorry to
There, somewhere in there, I had an idea that I didn't know, at least. So the idea is that Joe and me fix this thing up.
That would be I.
Do you see why I don't like this? It's so stupid. It's so stupid. Our language is so stupid. Okay, sorry. Maybe not the best way to say it. It's very foolish. Our rules.
Okay, carry out. No, I won't interrupt you.
So, like, understanding when you're standing at throwing something away, and you need to then, like, look at it from a different view. And it's saying, I know, this is. So there's this is a double-edged sword here. So you're looking at it and saying, is what I'm about to throw away potentially useful for me in the future? Now the problem with saving everything is that you have to manage it.
Yeah.
And so getting those systems and things figured out ahead of time before doing what I've done for the last 20 years of just like getting stuff and then maybe having like a bucket kind of organization,
right.
Just
if
throw
you
it
don't know
in a
you
bucket.
have it, it's not going to be any good.
No.
Or if you don't know where it is.
No, I know. See, that's the thing. That's what kills me sometimes,
Yeah.
or it very frustrates me a lot sometimes.
We helped.
I have the stuff.
Right.
I know I have it. And I'm like, where is this one thing?
That's where it's not helpful. We helped some older friends
move.
So they had their whole lifetime of stuff in their homestead. And their parents, who went into an assisted living place, they had all of their stuff. And the burden of stuff was heavy.
Great.
Heavy. So it's a balance between that. I remember hearing the minimal mom say something about, if you aren't sure if you could keep it, think, can I replace this for under $20?
Part of the problem is that all those fittings were under $20. Now, mind you, they were 10, 12 fittings.
Okay, but did you have a fitting drawer?
Yes.
See? So then it's okay to keep them. You had a spot to put them. You open the drawer, there are the choices. If it's just getting tossed into a big heap, then I would say
I get it. So that's part of my point. But
they're getting tips for life here. Yes. Wisdom for life from... What was even the question? How do you do it with one income and 10 kids? It was not about fittings in a drawer, and yet it is.
It absolutely is.
Making food from scratch. What are some other things? I remember actually years ago, I made a video on how we afford a large family. And I don't remember anything that I said in that video, but I can link it for you.
I had this one thought this one time. I don't know if this is going to be helpful, but here you go.
Obviously, I must have said something helpful because we had probably 8 kids at the time. So.
All right. I think the affordability tips.
Our kids also have caught the bug of, being frugal. And they really enjoy being frugal. So they're not asking us for, expensive clothing or tennis shoes or anything.
It's a challenge and it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. And they've really caught that too. And so that helps bring the price down. because they're just
we were all rowing in the same direction.
Yeah,
it helps
for sure. Okay. This is a sweet mama who's followed us for years, says we just adore you. That's sweet. But her question is, how do you live without comparing your life to others, and how do you stay content?
Again, like, that's to say that we're doing that, while we're looking at different homes, there is a little bit of a comparison. It's, it's like, what is it that we want? And understanding what we want sometimes is a little easier to say what we don't want. And so we start looking at our lives and some of the other people that have, try to do what we're doing or whatever, and we try to compare it. So I know that question's probably a little bit different, but understanding what God wants for us, I think, has been the biggest anchor. Like we're going through some different potential changes for income, and we're sitting here and saying, okay, well, what is it that we ultimately feel like God is calling us to do? Like, what kind of lifestyle? What are our interests? Like, what do we need, essentially?
Yeah.
To satisfy what we feel like God's called us to. And so understanding, is this in our lane? Is this something that we should be concerned about, planning for, incorporating, working towards, is really important when it comes to comparing and being content.
And surrounding yourself with like-minded people. It's not like we exclude people that don't think the same way as us, but the people that are really in your life, you want them to have a similar mindset, because they're going to help encourage you and build you up.
Or a better mindset,
right,
to bring us up to wherever they're at.
And sometimes I have to take a break from social media, because that's an easy place to start comparing yourself to other people, because everything looks really good when you're looking at somebody else's life.
I have a good friend who came to the knowledge of Christ fairly recently, and he is maybe a year or two older than me, and prior to that he was extremely successful in what he did financially, property wise, and he pursued a lot of material things early on when he had the capacity to do that. And we talk a lot about contentment, because the things that he doesn't struggle with is stuff now, because he sees how pointless it is,
right?
And it's hard, because I actually struggle with contentment when it comes to material things. Like, I would like to have a nicer 4-wheel drive tractor. I would like to have a vehicle that doesn't have rust on it. I would like to have one that doesn't have over 300,000 miles on it. Like those are things that I would like, but we have chose to make other things a priority in our life. And we've tried to understand that what we have right now is a direct result of supporting the big picture of what it is that we're trying to do.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you.
How to plan for a failed garden. It's been 100 degrees all summer here, and everything just died.
Oof. That's hard.
I would say a failed garden, when this question becomes weighty when you're thinking about it in terms of sustainability. So if we're talking sustainability, which is kind of where we started, and you're depending on your garden for food, then what do you do? And this is where I would say a strong community is super important, because you can help carry each other during times when one person has a fail. That, like squash, for example. I have battled squash bugs so badly that I didn't even bother to plant any squash this year. I have a friend who has not had squash bugs problems, and she brought me crates of squash from her garden because she grew so much, and I was able to give her eggs because her chickens aren't really laying right now. So we were able to give her a bunch of eggs, and it's just that, that inter-community, what am I trying to say here? There's a strength that comes from knowing people and being generous to those people, and then they're generous to you. And so, I don't know. I've never had to depend on our garden to live. When we read the Little House books, I'm just struck with how, dire everything was. If they had a failed crop, they might starve. I mean, it was just really...
Right.
We've never had to experience that. So
but
that's tough.
you know, understanding if your practices would sustain through those things, that's kind of important. You know, the deep mulch bedding
Yep, that has been a game
retains
changer for us.
moisture in the soil, and you know, for the plants, that's huge.
Yeah, we were able to still grow things even during the Missouri drought this summer. I watered like every 3 weeks, maybe, a deep water. And that was it because we layered our whole garden with mulch and it held the water in. If you go to, there's a website called Back to Eden. Type in Back to Eden documentary and it will come up. It's a film by Paul something. I can never remember. I can see his last name, but I've never, it's Gutscher. Starts with a G.
Trust me.
If you go to Back to Eden documentary, you will find his film, and it's very inspiring and might give you good ideas.
How's the big house plans coming along? They're not.
They're not. We really felt, I know.
Next question.
No, we really felt that we were supposed to pause on that and figure out if we're staying or moving.
So we're not really
to you.
released to do.
No, we're just kind of
any one thing
waiting.
right now. Right.
Best things to look for when buying land for a large family. Well, that's a good question to follow that up.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a few things because we've looked for the past year. We've been looking on and off, and so we've defined a few things.
Yeah, we're going to start off by saying for us, having a wet weather creek. No, at least a wet weather creek.
Right. Some source of water.
If not a spring-fed creek. You say some source of water. I would even say like a spring-fed pond is good, but maybe like not as good as like a spring creek, a spring-fed creek.
For purity.
So there's a couple different properties we're looking at that are a little on the high side, but there's like one of them. It's wonderful.
Okay, new battery. So
back up to that question.
No, go ahead. We
don't
just
know where
splice it together.
All right.
You were just saying that
There's
one
this
property we really liked it.
There's this property that has looked at online.
Right.
That's not proper English. So the spring comes out of the side of a hill, and they have put like blocks so that it's not just dumping down into the dirt. You know, this is just ideal. So if there were, you know, like a situation where you didn't have power for a long period of time, you could still have water. You know?
Another Another goal of ours is to get a property that adjoins government land. So we're talking like a national park or
national forest,
something like that.
Right.
Because it gives you
it limits the desire. Well, it limits the possibility of somebody developing right on the edge of your property. Never guaranteed. I was just talking to one of my clients earlier this week, and they were talking about how one of the hunting things not too far from them, they just clear cut.
Oh, wow.
The government just clear cut it. And I was like, whoa.
Well, that's discouraging.
Right. But the idea is that if you're back on your property and you're back off of the roads, because it was kind of on the road, off the road, you know, that they're less likely to go in there and to do it. So, you know, we do desire to be a little bit more off the beaten path, if you will, for our property. You know, the getting good. So if we're going to step out of like the Ozarks, so the Ozarks for us is just kind of a desire because it checks a lot of boxes, and you know, water availability. There's a huge aquifer, I guess is the right word, underneath the Ozarks that goes for miles and miles and miles. And what that means also is that, or what also helps that is that the Ozarks receives a above average amount of rain for the country. And so, you know, when she's talking about the garden and how it all died, we're assuming it's from the lack of water. And so having the ability to supplement, you know, water for, you know, animals, pastures, I mean, there's lots of things, but water is a vital part of
That's
that.
the top priority for us, you know.
And so
can't
playing.
live without
So
it.
the reason we said creek instead of pond is for the kids to be able to play it and adventure. You know, and so that
Like
was
the creek
yep,
idea.
because they can probably walk through it and not be a drowning hazard as much. So what else are we looking for?
Pasture. You know, ideally we'd like some pasture ready to go so we could just plop our cows on it.
Right, but we also entertain the idea that if we had to, we could rent some equipment and make a pasture, and or pay somebody to do it. You know, somebody got a reasonable price for coming in with a forestry mulcher and taking down all the small trees. You know, and then the large trees you could potentially sell if you wanted to futz with it. So you know, there's that. And
you know, another thing that's a must for us is connection with the internet, so you can continue your job.
Yes,
That's
but
that's a hard one.
no, you're just gonna have to pay a little bit of money because there is I forget the name of it, but the one
the satellite type
yeah,
thing?
the Elon Musk has
Yeah,
got out there.
I guess that's a possibility.
It is a possibility, and if we were doing it, and that was the best option because the other companies that we have from a satellite standpoint are very weak in what they're offering. The connectivity, the upload, download speeds are just not desirable. And so if we don't have cell phone service wherever we're at, we're going to have a strong internet.
Yeah.
And so going through that, even though there'd be like a $800 to $1,000 up front cost to get
Bring
the
it to
equipment, right?
You know, then another thing though is that even though we want those kind of services, we don't want our land to be near a
right.
we want
our cake and eat it too. Yeah.
We don't want to be near an electric. What do they call those stations?
Power.
You know, where
substations.
We don't want to live near any of
we
those
don't want
types of
high
things.
lines going through the property.
Just for health.
Yeah.
For greater health, and so.
You know, and we talked about, you know, doing raw land and buying it, and so understanding, you know, we would be bringing in those things, electric or.
Yeah, we're trying to decide if we have it in us.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just God knows the right place for us, and so we're just waiting on His perfect timing, and you know, we're still here, so obviously it hasn't been right yet. And I think this homestead that we've built up here and continue to build up, and what happened to our focus, is it's a wonderful place, and I think it will really be a blessing for somebody who wants a small homestead with an amazing community of people around us. So I look forward to somebody else.
We should leave a list of people that are awesome and be like, you have to know.
Yeah, here are
neighbor Paul.
Oops, that's my resources. Okay, where would you start? I guess with building a homestead. Garden chickens. We've kind of talked about that. No, I can think of one.
Fruit trees.
Fruit trees. We did not start with fruit trees.
Get them in right away.
We don't have any producing apple trees here because we could have easily. Let's not think about it. We didn't.
That's another thing when talking about looking at different properties. There's a couple
that already
have fruit trees, and that bumps them up on the list for me.
That would be really sweet.
Yeah, to be able to walk down to the apple tree and get some apples.
My old eyes are having to zoom in. This is Crunchy Mom of Fab Barnyard. Crunchy Mom of a Barnyard. Crunchy Mom of a Barnyard. I like that. Okay, who does all the chores and feeding of the animals? Maybe we should do a video on that. The boys do pigs and chickens. They soak the grain the day before and then feed pigs and chickens. Elsie does rabbits.
Samuel does the grain for the cow.
Yeah, but Bella handles all the milking.
She's kind of the manager.
She's the manager, and she tells me, well, I think it would be good for this child to do this job, or, you know, she kind of tells me who should do what, and I'm like, okay, and then I pretend it's my idea. Also, when we have random things come in, like we had meat chickens that someone gave us, specific meat chickens to raise, she just kind of automatically takes that kind of stuff on, unless we delegate it to somebody else. What else do we have? Garden is mostly me, and then
Elsie's
I
doing the
sometimes
rabbits.
grab
Did you
people.
See that? She has the cat.
Yeah. Samuel feeds
the dogs.
Jeremiah helped out with bringing hay up to our calf.
Until our
James
pastures picked back
helped
up.
dump vegetable scraps. Everybody gets to help a little bit. And we really, over the past couple of years, have worked hard to simplify things. So anytime something was super frustrating or taking a lot of time, we would say, well, what can we do to make this easier? Because obvious reasons. So even in the winter, you know, situations with the hoses and freezing, we invested in water heaters so that you wouldn't have frozen water for animals and all that.
Right, and so, you know, if we were to stay here longer, ideally we would trench and connect water out closer to our pastures. So that...
Make it more convenient, because the hose is freezing up in the winter is annoying.
Yeah, some people, when, you know, they get serious about this sort of thing, they dig another well for the animals.
This person says, what do you do to sanitize jars, or what do you sanitize jars with before making kombucha and canning?
Really hot
Kombucha,
water?
I just clean them with hot water, and with canning, whenever I'm heating my water for whatever, I just submerge the jars in there and boil them along with it. Although they say if you're pressure canning beyond a certain amount of time that you don't have to go through the boiling process, because the pressure canning will kill any bacteria.
It's so hard because, like, my eyesight, my glasses, I think I'm due for an upgrade. So when I can't see, like, it looks like we're out of focus until I do this.
Yeah,
so just
sorry.
if you're wondering why I'm doing that, it's just to make sure that the camera is not messing up.
What do you find to be the hardest part of parenting? Whoa, Allison sneaking that $1 million question in there. The hardest part?
Not being perfect.
I agree.
Wait.
Oh, you got it to focus. This camera is such a stinker. Maybe it's because of the
window behind me?
Yeah, could be. Parenting is really hard, and we are very not perfect, and we screw up a lot. So I guess that would be the hardest part, and then...
How about this? I just can't see it all.
Yeah, I think that's hard. Every child is really different, so knowing the best way to approach them, but just learning to rely on the Holy Spirit for help in that and say I'm sorry a lot.
You know, I just got a compliment from a client that, I guess he knows my story a little bit, and he was just like, you know, I'm just really encouraged by your patience and this, that, and the other. And yes, I have more patience now than I've ever had, but I still lose my patience with my kids and with my wife. And, you know, they have to see me say I'm sorry a lot, or should. And so, I don't know, is that the hardest thing? I guess maybe that kind of goes in there. Again, it's just, you can delete that out if you like.
No, I think that's good. I like that. This is a really easy question. Is your mulch in your garden plain tree bark? Yes. We actually met a guy. It's not bark. It's the whole tree.
Right.
It's a yes and yes.
Leaves.
Limbs and leaves and everything, which
bark,
is ideal.
Everything.
The ideal mulch is all of it, because then you have different types of matter that will break down different ways. We met a guy. I used to have the hardest time getting mulch. In fact, 2 years ago, I was just like, I want to do this back to Eden thing, but I'm out of mulch, you know, whatever, no-till gardening. But then we met a guy who has a tree service and, you know, didn't know where to dump all his mulch. So he now dumps it here, to the point that I'm like, I need to call some local people to come get mulch because I have so much I don't know what to do with it.
Well, our tractors broke down.
Yeah.
With a bucket. Part of it, bucket is broken down because I'm an idiot.
You tried to use it for amazing things. Do you get caterpillars amongst your brassicas? Yeah,
Brassicas?
I did. Cabbages and...
Such an intelligent question. I'm like, wait, what? Sorry.
Yeah, so I did desperately go to BT a couple of times and use that. That's, you know, they like come eat the caterpillars, I guess. I don't know exactly understand how it works, but ideally, you just, when you see the, you know, moth things that are going to start landing on your brassicas, if you cover it with a netting, then that's just really easy. Then they just can't lay their eggs, and the eggs don't hatch, and then you don't have caterpillars. So that would be the best way to handle that, I think. Carissa says, do you do normal day of school on a day like this? Okay, so on days when we are doing a lot of homestead projects and preserving and things do we do normal school? Well, what is school, I think would be my question to you, because this is why we do year-round homeschooling, because school to me is life and learning, and it never really ends. And teaching my kids the skills of preserving or doing engine work or building things or butchering or, all of these things that we do in life, quite frankly, it may turn out to be more valuable skills for them than, the history that we study or the algebra that we do.
So there's a variety.
Yeah, so some days we go through seasons where, sometimes like in the dead of winter, that's a great time to do a lot more of that book work because you aren't out doing all the projects. And so it's a great time to sit and, absorb more history or practice more math or writing.
And they're more willing to do that because that's not what is expected all year round or...
Yeah, we ebb and flow a lot. So that was her question. Would you count canning and things like Bella did with you in this video as school?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I mean... Home ec.
Is that not a class?
Yeah.
So yeah.
If you really wanted
Shop
to
class.
Sit down and... I had a homeschooling moms group for a couple years where I would encourage homeschooling moms. And that's one thing that I talked about often with them is that because we follow more of a delight directed approach. And so we're kind of following kids' interests. We have some things that are just basic requirements, but then other things where it's just following their interests and allowing them to learn that. So I encourage them, if they are doing that with their kids and starting to feel like we're not doing enough, to have a notebook out on your counter and to jot down things that you notice your kids doing during the day. Because a random discussion at night before bed could be a very, if that was done in a school setting where you scheduled it on Tuesday the 14th at 9 a.m., then that would be an official class. But when it happens, at night when they're brushing their teeth or whatever it may be, it doesn't feel official, but it's the same. In fact, I would argue and say it's more valuable because you have a kid who's actually, I think we turn this on silence. My sister liking every picture I sent her. When it happens on those spontaneous moments, you have a kid who is wanting to know that information. They are fully invested, and so they are absorbing it. And they're going to get way more out of it than when you force them, like, sit down, we're going to learn about this right now, and they don't really care. So life learning like that is very, very valuable.
One of the things, too, Julie said this before, I agree. I think it's the primary thing we're trying to teach our kids is how to learn. So if there is something that they want to learn about and don't know how to do, if we can teach them how to learn it, that to me is even more valuable than them being able to retain information that we've said. So that they can go out there and do that. And I think that's kind of played out here recently with the leather making. Like, I bought them some tools. We talked generally, like they generally know how to work with hand tools and whatnot. We found a lady who gave them leather. Right. They bought a couple things themselves. And we went to go pick up a free sewing machine off of Craigslist, and they're going to town doing their thing. They're passionate about it. They are. And we did not have to, well, first of all, we don't do leather, so we don't know, but we wouldn't have taught them anything. They went on their own and discovered it. It was the same when they learned how to play the guitar. We never did anything but help them get a guitar. Yeah. That was it. And then they take off. I would say it's very likely that I have learned more in my years out of school than I ever did in all of my, 18 years in school, or whatever you want to categorize being in school. I have learned because I was given a lot of information then. But a lot of it went in one ear and out the other for me. I'm an old JT guy. I learn by being hands-on and learning from people who know, and I ask questions or make mistakes, Yeah, and when you're interested in something, you care to learn about it. So take that's good. So take the pressure off of yourself if you're homeschooling and you feel like you have to teach your kids everything, or that you can't just enjoy living life with them because you're too busy doing school. Like,
try to get out of that mindset and know that life is learning, and that your two goals are to teach your kids how to learn and to allow them to foster that love of learning in them. Those are the only two goals. And if you teach them that, this out of focus thing is going to drive me batty now. If you teach them that, then they will be able to go on learning for the rest of their life. You do not need to teach them everything. I'm sorry, that's way more than the question asked for, but I think that might be the last question, actually. So, yay, because we've probably talked long enough. It's probably longer than I'm passionate about that subject. I get a little fired up about that. Every once in a while I think about having my mom's group again, but...
Not yet.
I'll do a plug for myself. I do have a website after I don't know. While he's dying, I'll tell you that I do have... Are you going to be okay?
I don't know. It's a diatomaceous earth.
Oh, maybe. Our dogs had fleas. So we just sprinkled diatomaceous earth everywhere. That could be what's making you cough.
It's not like I'm stirring it up.
What was I going to say? Oh, after I ended my mom's group, I started spending more time developing my website, which is thedelightfulhomeschool.com, and I share there both about things that we do and just encouragement. Oh my.
Get that proper English.
In general. And I also made like a little handbook that you can download for free that talks about how to parent and run a household when you have a lot of kids and homeschool, just kind of the how-tos behind that. So that's all. Do you have anything else to say?
Sure.
Maybe we'll do this again in the future, but next week we will be going down to the Ozarks, like I said, and we'll be meeting up with a lot of neat people that you might know. We're going to bring our camera along and we're going to film all that, and maybe they'll let us get a little peek at the unique homesteads that they have set up, because we have friends that are living in an RV on a homestead. We have friends that moved onto raw land in Missouri and with their own two hands have been slowly building up a homestead.
That's not true. There's 12 of them. Their own 24 hands.
Their own 24 hands. That's right. And then we are going to hang out with our friends from Shepherd's Crook Coffee.
Yeah.
We're going to see the Bass family from Farmhouse on Boone. And we're going to be going to the Ozark Homestead Expo. So we're really excited about it.
Yep.
We'll bring you along with us.
If you're in the area.
Yeah.
If they have any tickets
If
left.
tickets are still available. I think they are.
Yeah.
No, you could check it out. But we'll see you guys there.